y'all, it's Tommy with Tommy Outdoors. So just getting dinner ready. So decided that we were gonna have some cabbage tonight, along with some red potatoes. Also gonna do some okra from the garden and some tomatoes. Unfortunately, not all the tomatoes are from the garden, but some of the red tomatoes are, and some of the green as well. So gonna do something a little bit different using some Italian olive oil. So next step is going to be prepping the tenderloin and also getting the fire ready. We're going to do that on a charcoal grill using some lump charcoal and also using some wood from around the yard. So gives it that campfire taste. The best part about hunting is you actually get to eat what you get. So, and you want to respect it. So, right here, I've got a venison tenderloin, or a backstrap as some people call it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put olive oil on it with salt and pepper. So right now it's whole. There's a chunk missing here. Unfortunately, it's a deer that was harvested last year. Had a little bit of a tear here, had some freezer burns, so I went ahead and cut that out. Always painful when you gotta kind of cut up the tenderloin, but one of the things you want to make sure too when you're cooking this is that you cut even chunks. So you don't want one side to finish, such as this, even though you have these fatter sides over here. So the thicker it is, the longer it's going to take. But one thing I always say is you don't want to kill it twice. So you want to make sure that you respect the meat. You know, you don't overdo it. You don't make it overdone. You want to make sure that, you know, worst case, if you undercook it a little bit, you can always put it back on. If you overcook it, you can't put it back on and undercook it at that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting this up. And tenderloin is kind of like a steak. I mean, it's a red meat. You know, there's a variety of different ways you can cook it. You can also do medallions. I prefer to cook it whole. I just enjoy the fact that you can get a medium in the center, and then you can do medium well around it. It's also better for when you reheat it. So one of the things that you don't want to do is make it medium well, and then you go to have leftovers the next day, because I don't know how many people can eat this entire thing, but I can't. So you want to make sure that you cook it to where if you warm it up, you're not going to have a really, really well done tenderloin, because this is the best part of the deer right here, in my opinion. Ground is good, cube is good, you know, all the cooked snacks that you can get from your processor is great, but one of the things that you really want to do with your backstrap is treat it like a steak. You want to make it where it's medium to medium well. You can still cook it to that degree, and you know, you don't have to worry about basically any of the parasites or the toxoplasmosis if it's cooked correctly and it's done right. So don't kill it twice, cook it nice. So I'm going to start cutting it up right now. Typically I don't like to cut my tenderloins, but given the way this backstrap essentially is pretty thick. You know, I've defrosted it. It's a lot more manageable if you can do it in different pieces. Again, you can kind of control the heat. And one of the things I've done with my charcoal fire is also to kind of make it to where it's even. I've let it burn down. I've distributed it evenly, basically using a shovel or a grill piece to maneuver the coals around. You know, again, you can cut this up and make this almost like medallions. I just prefer to cook mine whole. I enjoy it better. I can cook it in a couple different pieces, and it turns out nicely. One of the things I also like to do is to rinse it in water. It kind of gets some of the blood out. It also kind of reduces some of the gaminess. I'm not one of those that thinks that, you know, deer or other wild game are particularly gamey, but This is, you can see I've already rinsed it twice and it's already got a little bit of blood down in the bottom. So, I mean, you can see it's a really thick cut piece of meat. One of the things I also like to do when I'm grilling is, other than I have my chopped garlic over here, I like to use a paper plate just because it's disposable, especially when you're dealing with blood. Other than that, you'll need to make sure you use bleach or make sure that you cook it really well and clean everything else really well, just so you can make sure that there's no contamination. You'll want to take your tin or whatever container you're putting it in, your knife, wash it really well. But with tenderloin and any other kind of wild game like this, again, you just want to make sure that you cook it well and you treat it with respect, but just make sure you don't overdo it. Okay, now with the olive oil and the salt and the pepper, we're ready to go. The garlic will be added last since it'll cook quickly. It'll just kind of be a finisher on top of the meat. So I'm just kind of mixing it in here, and I'll also drizzle it on the meat while we're cooking it. So just be cautious of the flare up since it is olive oil, so it is kind of, it can potentially flare up on you. Ready to light the 2-burner grill, so get our potatoes going. So you want to make sure you're safe. Light one side at a time. That's out. Might get a twofer. Alright, now that we got that going, we're going to work on getting our tenderloin put in there. So the grill ought to be nice and hot and ready. Grill's nice and hot. We're ready to add our tenderloin. Do season side down here. It's sticking a little bit, but that's okay. Alright. We are low and slow. Let's zoom in and see. So, now that they've rested, you can go ahead and start cutting. You end up with that nice medium to medium well, depending on thickness. Good luck out there. And nothing like an end. Smoky goodness.